Hello again to my favorite students. Welcome to week 2 of Journalism 350 magazine writing. We have a wonderful week 2 ahead of us. You get to read one chapter. Less is more in this case, so enjoy your reading. I always like it when I have or had weeks where I only had to read one chapter, so I hope you enjoy having a one chapter reading for this week. I would like you to complete your assignments as you did this last week. I provided as much feedback as I could to your assignments that you submitted last week. So for those of you that had some opportunities for growth that were suggested in your submissions from last week, please apply those suggestions to having some improved assignments for this week. I always try and give feedback that's going to be very helpful and help you to take your writing to the next level. For your discussion board, you will have some creative freedom to identify a magazine article and then identify other things within it, such as noting the publisher, the magazine title, the genre of the magazine, the published date, the writer, the article, all of those good facts. And I'd like you to summarize the article in 50 words or less. And I would also like you to determine the credibility of the article on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest. So take note of things like how the writer of the article utilized sources. Were they effective in their interviewing information that they provided? Were they effective in giving you a complete perspective when you were done reading the article? Did you fully understand what it was about? Did you have any questions? Did it leave any gaps? Those are all things that will contribute to a quality article. And of course, grammar. If I were grading it and it were something that I were rating, I would care about grammar. But usually with professionally published articles, hopefully you'll have good grammar. Also pay attention to things like visual appeal. So that includes on a web page things like graphics, photos, layouts, links to videos, all of that good stuff. And then at the end, critique it, give your overall opinion of what you liked about it, what you found to be the most satisfying about the reading experience. And this submission should be 200 to 300 words. And I mean it, 200 or 300 words, no more, no less. This is training you to get ready to be professionals and write in a way that meets word requirements, word counts, and space accounts that you may have to deal with when you're writing for either a publication or a website or a public relations type of situation where you have very limited space. It's important that you write in a concise and complete way, so these word limitations will give you that foundation to do that. I'd also like for you to respond to 2 of your course mates, and with your responses, make sure that your responses are 75-word responses. You also have written assignment number 2. And written assignment number 2 is an assignment that I would love to write if I were in your shoes. I identified 2 recent Pulitzer Prize winning pieces, and those are magazine articles that won Pulitzer Prizes. The majority of the Pulitzer Prize winning pieces that you will see are for newspaper articles. So it's pretty special anytime a magazine article gets into that category. Not because magazine articles are not wonderful, but it's a unique thing. So it's great that we have some examples from recent years that we can share. I included 2 links of articles, so giving you a bit of a choice. You can write about either of these 2 options provided, and then when you're done, think about important points that you identified in your reading this week, summarize the article, analyze the piece that you have selected from one of the 2 links, and tell us why you feel like it may be Pulitzer Prize quality. And compare the differences that you've identified between magazines and newspaper article writings. Your text offers you some of that insight, so please incorporate that into this submission. Your post should be 500 to 700 words. Again, I'm giving you a lot of real estate to work with within that word count, so enjoy the opportunity to have a less concise writing canvas, if you will, to complete your assignment this week. When you finish reading these articles, of course, one of the things that is done in this particular class is making sure that you have quality writing that adheres to Safe Assign. So you'll be paying attention to your Safe Assign assignment, hopefully when you submit it. Safe Assign lets us know how much of your article is your original work. Obviously, if you're copying and pasting a lot from your course text, we do not want to see that. That's too much of a percentage. So always kind of hover around 25% coming back from safe assign, because that shows that the majority of it is actually your writing. And I take each case into consideration when I read your safe assign percentages. For example, I have submitted things in my day when I was submitting assignments for my classes where I would come up with 40%, but it ended up being okay because a lot of it was properly attributed, and a lot of it came from even the reference section. So I handle things case by case, but try and aim for 25% coming back from safe assign, because we want to see a lot of originality in what you are submitting. There's also some useful links here, such as some information about freelance. So let's click on that. These are 15 places where freelance writers can find magazine markets. For those of you that may have full-time jobs or may be students and may not have time to be employed full-time by a magazine, these are some resources should you want to be a freelance writer. When I wrote for Christianity Today magazine, I was considered a freelance writer. What did that mean? Well, that meant that my assignments came by the assignment. I didn't work there in Christianity Today. I did not live in Illinois. I was not on their full-time staff. I did not receive benefits. I was paid article by article. But it was fun. I got to do it in addition to my day job, so it gave me that enjoyment of being a reporter while still being able to have a full-time job doing something else. Freelancers can make a lot of money. They can do very well for themselves, but you have to work hard, and sometimes it's just easier to have a day job and then freelance on the side so that you get to enjoy the best of both worlds, having a full-time job with great benefits and a different type of job, and then you can freelance for fun on the side. I encourage anybody that's currently in college to consider freelancing if you have some opportunities that you can come across. Freelancing was a great way to help me make some extra money in college, and then when I went on to write for a newspaper, I was doing that full time and then writing freelance on the side. And then when I transitioned into my communications position with the County of San Bernardino, my day job was in public relations, but I was still missing writing, so I was able to freelance on the side. So this is a great list of resources. And of course, you have the internet. You can Google things and look up different publications and see what their policies are for submissions and what they look for from their freelance articles. One of the things that I wanted to show to you once we go beyond the syllabus is just the articles that you'll be reading for your assignment. I went on the Pulitzer Prize winning website and I found these magazine articles that did very well in the Pulitzer Prize contest, and one of them, which you have the option to read, is highlighting a very tragic story related to a church shooting, but it was in GQ magazine. I never really think of GQ magazine as being this amazing source of literary journalism, but pretty cool. They got a Pulitzer Prize, and that Pulitzer Prize was won by a freelance reporter. So great news, everybody. You don't have to be a full-time journalist to get a Pulitzer Prize. It does happen. So Rachel is my hero. She is a freelance writer, and she has a Pulitzer Prize. So yay, Rachel. The other piece that we can look at, or that you will have the option of highlighting this week, is from Sherry Fink. Sherry did not get the Pulitzer Prize per se in feature writing, but she did receive a finalist nod, and I think Sherry may have actually gotten the Pulitzer Prize in a different category. But her article is called Deadly Choices at Memorial, and it's in reference to a hospital situation following a storm. Kind of a morbid story following Hurricane Katrina, so I'm sorry that the Pulitzer Prize winning magazine features aren't the happiest stories. Magazine feature article writing has a lot of happy moments, so if anybody really truly has a problem writing these stories or reading these stories, if it's a traumatic experience for you and you just don't want to write about something related to life and death matters, I understand life is hard, so if there is a challenge for you and you want to write about a different article and you're having some other ideas, some other considerations for articles you've come across and you want to highlight, just shoot me an email, let me know, and I'm pretty receptive and pretty flexible. I just want you to write about something quality so that you can produce a quality assignment for this submission. So these are just two really excellent magazine article writing ideas that I came across on the Pulitzer website. Again, Pulitzer Prize is pretty much the best when it comes to journalism, so I want you to enjoy your reading as much as possible. So if anybody wants to consider a different route for your written assignment, I'm open to it. Um, as far as identifying ideas for your writing submissions whenever you are a magazine article writing, there's a lot of things that you can consider. I know when I was a magazine article writer for Christianity Today, my job was actually pretty easy. It was unbelievably easy because they actually reached out to me before I reached out to them. They came to me when I received a scholarship grant and they saw my name and they said, "Hey, we saw you got a scholarship grant while you were at Cal Baptist for journalism. How would you like to do some writing for us?" And so, of course, it's Christianity Today and you're a college student, so you're going to jump at the chance to do that type of writing. And that's how we got in touch with one another. So I enjoyed that opportunity and not your usual route for doing magazine article writing. Typically, you have to really hustle and pitch and promote your ideas, and I was really blessed in that regard. Chapter I really like chapter 3. Chapter 3 talks about the whole idea of the concept of magazine article writing, but there was a couple of things in here that I found to be really valuable, which will be relevant whether you're going into journalism or communications or public relations. And they were 3 necessary skills for the freelance writer. And that is actually found on page 67 of your course text. And the first sentence, another major difference between newspapers and magazines is the evolution of article ideas. Both newspaper and magazine writers may come up with their own ideas and often do, but most newspaper feature writers are staffers on salary. Their survival as writers doesn't necessarily depend on their ability to formulate good feature ideas. On smaller newspapers, feature writers usually cover general assignments as well. That's very true. That's what I did. I can attest to that. So, pretty much leads you to believe that magazine article writers are freelance writers, essentially. That's pretty much what it's communicating in a nutshell. Newspaper writers are full-time, although that's changing a lot with the change of the industry, but magazine article writers tend to be more freelance focused. And I think in giving you some perspective, as this text does, about what it takes to be a good freelancer, you can apply that to your career in public relations as well. The text gives you some really good points of interest. You have, in order to be a successful freelancer according to the text, you have to master 3 things. You must be able to come up with good story ideas. You must know magazines and what they want, and you must be able to write a well-organized article. So those are just great ideas, I think, for any communications or journalism related job. You need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to come up with good story ideas, and you need to be able to pitch those story ideas. So whether you're pitching them in a proposal for an article or whether you are pitching them as a press release submission, you need to be able to you need to be able to communicate with those that are going to be reading your articles, reading your submissions. You need to communicate in a way that will make them interested in your idea, help them see that this is a good idea that they will want to include in their coverage. If you're submitting a press release per se, then you want the reporters to cover a story. And if you're submitting an idea that you want to write about for a publication, you need to make them again also see why this is a good idea for them to have you write for their publication. So that is absolutely just a really great suggestion. It really resonates with me because it's been very true in my journalism career and my public relations career. And the second suggestion is you must know the magazines and what they want. And again, that also speaks on a public relations level to knowing your audience and knowing what they want. And also knowing the publication that you may be working with and knowing what their needs are. So again, great skill to have. Please always keep in mind your audience and the publication that you're targeting. You want to be able to submit things that will really communicate with an audience and communicate with the publication and the publication's audience. And the third suggestion, you must be able to write a well-organized article. Again, this is true for journalism as much as it is for public relations. If you're submitting something for consideration to an agency from a press release or public relations perspective, we've been finding with the trends in journalism, with the limited resources in newsrooms, there aren't very many journalists. If you can submit a press release that in some ways even looks like a story, sometimes that increases its likelihood for getting picked up in a publication because it's essentially signed, sealed, delivered, ready for publication. And if you write an article or write a story proposal that will give an editor who's reviewing your proposal for a freelance magazine article, if you give them something that really gives them a glimpse that's well organized of a type of writing that's well organized and quality, is appropriate and consistent with their style, that will really help you get on an editor who is reviewing your submission's radar. And whether they say yes or no at that particular time, you will still create an impression. I used to submit some story ideas and reach out to editors, and they didn't always select my ideas. They didn't always get back to me for that particular story. But they still had my contact information, and then they may have reached out to me at a later time when they did have a need for the type of story I was proposing doing, or they may have come back to me and said, hey, you sent us your content. Well, they wouldn't say hey, but they would communicate back that they received my contact information and they had some freelance work related to what I was communicating about wanting to do, and they would reach out to me and we would go from there. So knowing those three things will be extremely, extremely beneficial when you do go into the professional arena of media writing or public relations. Again, it's all about knowing your audience and communicating well with them in writing and every other way possible. So I really value the information in Chapter 3. It has some really good tips for a professional and a student. So like I said, this is a really great book. I personally would not sell it if I were you. I would want to hang on to it because it does have some really great information that is relevant for practitioners of public relations and journalism. So, yeah, I hope you enjoy the reading that you have this particular week. I think this is going to be actually a lighter week in terms of workloads. So, as I always tell my employees when they come to me and they say it's a light work week and they need something to do and they feel like they're not doing enough work, I always tell them enjoy it. Enjoy it because it's a calm before the storm, because you will have to do a lot of work in the very near future. So enjoy your week too. It'll give you some good time, some good downtime to get ready for week 3 and week 4, where you will be doing a lot more work. You'll have some lengthier assignments to submit. As always, I'm here for you. I'm praying for you. I love journalism and I love Cal Baptist, and I look forward to connecting with each of you in reading your assignments and working with you. So have a fabulous week. God bless, and look forward to hearing from you all soon.